The political scene is picking up steam again as the drums for a constitutional reform beats in what seemingly is a jungle populated with politicians. The debate for another national referendum, ostensibly, quote-unquote, to fix the country, taking center stage. So on New Week this week, we ask, is the quest for a referendum justified? A very good morning. Many thanks for making time for us here on TV47. I am Abubakar Abdullahi. This is New Week, a 2-hour show that puts its agenda as what will be the agenda of the week. Welcome to the program. But first, let's have a look at this.
Wale wanaleta maneno ya kubadilisha katiba. Iwe ni punguza mzigo, iwe ni BBI, mimi nasema na sauti. Sisi tunaweza kukubali katiba ibadilishwe kama itapunguza mzigo ya Wakenya. Tutakubali kupunguza mzigo kama maji itafikia wakina mama. Tutakubali kuondoa hiyo katiba ya zamani kama barabara zetu zitaanza kuonekana kama hii nimepitia. Kama elimu itakuwa bure, tunaweza kusema katiba ibadilishwe.
Na wanasema kuna kitu inaitwa BBI. Na hiyo ni Bluebird Initiative. Lakini Raila Odinga na watu wengine wachache wakikaa nje kidogo, wakisikia huko nje kuna baridi, wanataka Kenya mzima ifanye jukumu ya kubadilisha katiba ati ndio Raila Odinga afanywe prime minister wa Kenya. Na hao wadosi wengine walianguka kura wapewe viti. Mtakubali hiyo kweli? Kama kuna kubadilisha katiba, ni kubadilisha uga iende chini. Kama kuna kubadilisha katiba, ni kubadilisha watoto wako university wasilipe school fees.
Na juzi nimesikia deputy president akisema ya kwamba hata hii Jubilee, it was not necessary lazima waingie katika kiti into leadership, political leadership, but their first and primary responsibility ya kushikana ilikuwa Kenya iwe moja. The issue of winning political power was secondary. Ya primary ya kwanza ilikuwa Kenya iwe pamoja. Na kwa hivyo tusisahau hii uhusiano ya Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta na William Ruto kutoka 2012. That is the first thing. Ingine viongozi wengine wamekuja. Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga ameingia. Wengine wameingia. It is okay ni kushikana. But the original pact, the first pact ya unity ilikuwa katikati ya nani? Ya Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta na nani? Na William Samoei Ruto.
Amesema wataangusha. Si amesema? Mimi siwezi sema hivyo. Kwa sababu mimi nikiwa speaker, kazi yangu itakuwa ni kuweka ratili ya kupima nani ndio ameshinda mwingine. So yeye atapigana kuangusha. Mimi nitakuwa hapo nikishikilia, niangalie. Lakini bahati mzuri, mimi pia ijapokuwa speaker Muturi yeye hana constituency. Lakini mimi niko na constituency inaitwa Kuresoi North. Ikifika sasa wakati ya kupiga hiyo kura, itabidi nipige vile mimi najua. Na mimi ninaona kama ninaweza kupiga na huyu Ndindi pande moja. Ninaona, sijasema, kwani nimesema nitapiga.
And as the political back and forth continues, remember you can be part of this discussion. Tweet us at TV47KE. Remember the hashtag to use is hashtag TV47 New Week. I'm Abubakar Abdullahi. My guests two in absentia who are on their way, Areba Omoyo and Professor Herman Manyora. But Daniel Orogo is already in studio. Daniel, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
One of my producers told me that we have an Oga in the studio today.
Just honoring the holiday that is today. Yeah, in the spirit of... That's why I wish our Muslim brothers a happy holiday today as they celebrate. Let's practice restraint and remember those who are unfortunate in the community as well.
Fair enough. The very question that forms the premises of our discussion this morning is the quest for a referendum justified or even justifiable?
Well, it depends on where you're looking the coin from. I think when we agreed and conversed widely about the Constitution, we agreed that there are some sections of the Constitution that will warrant the amendment in coming period. But then the question is, if we are yearning for an amendment of the Constitution, why and should it be right now? I think constitutional amendment is a national duty, and it's bequeathed each and every citizen to converse openly about what is in the benefit for the constitutional amendment. And that is why I am saying that it is something that is worth looking into, only if it takes into consideration the interest of Wanjiku.
And we will get to that interest a little bit later, and the proposals that we have from the BBI that is yet to give its report, plus the Punguza Mzigo. If it is less than a decade since Kenya's 2010 constitution was promulgated, it sounds and looks to a layman like me too early to amend.
Well, you see, that's why I said it purely depends on where you're seeing it from, because what chapter, what articles are we amending the Constitution on? You could actually outline that Chapter 16 is clear on sections that should consider amendment. Matters of, term limit for presidency, matters of citizenship, matters of, critical matters like the looking into the devolved system of government. That warranties a lot of, proportion to for the citizens to actually look when their interest is really, or is it a political. One of the issues that I said in an African context, this referendum festival that we always see
You term it as a festival?
It is a festival.
Based on what?
Because we are rehearsing, we are doing it, and yet it's not providing us a solution. So it looks like a rehearsal, but not real practical bit of it. And so when we consider that the quest for a referendum each and every time will not cure Kenyan problem, will not cure the African problem, because Abu Bakr, our problems, outlive, they are lived within the practice of nationalism, the constitutionality of the law, and abiding by the spirit of the Constitution, but while at the same time practicing leadership and integrity and dealing with corruption. I don't think our solution to African problems or Kenyan problem lies on always over time changing the Constitution. So I think this is mind-boggling for me.
So you believe despite any amendment that will be forthcoming, if at all it will, you don't believe it will bear results?
Well, that's what I've said. It's only when it's looked into consideration of the Wanjiku's interest, other than the political interest. And I like the fact that we'll find some time to check into through these. I think right now there are 4 proposals, not only 2, that are in the table for Kenyans to consider. While we delve deeply into it, we will realize that really Kenyans are played. Kenyans are not really at the center stage of discussion in this, the change of plebiscite as we discuss the constitutional amendment.
Fair enough. A constitutional referendum was last held in Kenya in 2005, November 21st. The results were 58%. Kenyans rejected what would have been a new constitution at that time, the proposed new constitution of 2015. Does this as well give Kenyans an opportunity to either reject or accept what they want?
Well, you see, that depends a lot on how we would, play into the interest of Kenyans. Well, like you've closely intimated, like last election, last constitution, you said, remember, the 58% of Kenyans who actually rejected that there were some issues that that was behind the rejection of this kind of constitution. And you see, one of the things, Abu Bakr, we really need to be very honest about is that Kenyans are not really reading. Kenyans are not really interrogating these documents properly. If you, for example, even the one that was rejected, my mind tells me that by that time, it was simply because it was the no rejection was affiliated to some sections of allied to political, politicians.
And looking back at 2005 and what was entailed in that, for instance, the issue of land reforms, the question of abortion and same-sex, religious courts such as the Kurdish court, and the referendum failed. This seemingly is not the case as it is now, isn't it?
Well, the component...
One will say in 2005, that change was anchored on reforms such as the land reforms.
Well, you see, the issues that you just said, and that's why I'm saying a section of politicians, actually, if you look at, there was a whipping of emotions of Kenyans, where they would take extreme explanations to why those amendments needs to be rejected, or those proposals need to be rejected. That's why I said by that time, if you could be very keen and reflect back, Kenyans did not subject themselves to proper interrogation. What did it say? What did the Kadis Court say? What did it propose? But then you realize that sections of our politicians would read on behalf of Kenyans, and they would make a decision on behalf of Kenyans, and Kenyans would play into that. But as we look into, we are into 2010 Constitution, even the amendment that are being proposed by the 4 initiatives that I've just mentioned, the amendment that's Kenyans really, they take into interest. They actually matters that are dealing, for example, with revenue, matters that are dealing, for example, dealing with corruption, issues that are dealing, for example, with proportional representation. And I think these are even devolving more powers to the ward. So I think if Kenyans would listen properly, and I like that there is a change, there's a new wave of change insofar as educating Kenyans. My only, I'm casting aspersions when it comes to who talks for Kenyans this time round, because look at, for example, the ones that have been taken to the county assemblies. Kenyans are in the masses of county assemblies to decide for them.
And just to be clear, when you say there are few leaders who read on behalf of Kenyans, and these are the Kenyans who are accepting what is read for them, who is to blame? Is it the politicians who are reading this for them?
You see, there's an intricate balance. There's a very complicated way in which we play politics in this country. Because our politics once is, ethnicized. Our politics once is, affiliated to, party, march of party decisions, and lack of internal democracy. And you see lack of people's participation, even within these parties. That negates the power of people to actually support a push for a referendum change.
Despite each party publicly claiming to say that they involve people?
Well, I think that is claim, like you said. It not really reflects. I really want to take you into a report that was done by Center for Multi-Party Democracy on the participation of the people in political parties. And you realize, for example, the youth and women, their participation really was relegated to youth and women leagues, not lacking into decision in the mainstream. And this is also playing to Kenyans. You realize that our politics is much party centralized when we are approaching elections. And when, parties are going through change and they would want to push for an agenda, for example, like constitution. But between that time when there is calm, Kenyans are actually not really holding their political parties accountable because they deem the vehicles upon which the conveyor belt upon which Kenya's decisions and interests are taken care of.
Fair enough. The politicians aside, the political parties aside, who then becomes the voice of Kenyans? Kenyans themselves?
Well, Kenyans themselves, and that is why if you look at the Constitution, it envisions the representation in 2 ways. One is directly, it's directly that Kenyans can participate in the decision, either through petitions, either through directing their voices in public participation, and the other one is through their representation. So I think there is a sense in which Constitution gives Kenyans an authority, and the opening preamble says that all powers are invested in the people of Kenya. I think it's the duty of Kenyans, the obligation to exercise that. Otherwise, it will be in futility if we leave it in the hands of politicians.
Daniel, before we continue, I just want to check some point. What are your thoughts in as far as the referendum is concerned? Are you for it or against it?
Well, I can't really at this level say that I am for it or against it, but I would say that it is something that needs, even for me as a Kenyan, to take time and look into the proposals that are made in either initiatives for me to decide whether it's something that could be considered or not.
There are often those who draw a connotation between a referendum and just like an election, that it will be as divisive as our elections are. Do you foresee that?
I really foresee that in a situation where we're in the backdrop of a 2022 general elections. A referendum is coming in a time when we will just be probably concluding on a national census. And, the population release will be out and see which counties, are actually having numbers on this. So I think it's meticulously designed by a section of political class to keep Kenyans into the mood of politics throughout. And for me, as a Kenyan, I would really say that, you know, it is not bad to propose an amendment. But I think we are into a situation where we are into a barrage of a number of things as Kenyans for us to look into. We are yet to actually ask ourselves, you know, what is the aftermath of Huduma number that was taken? What is the aftermath of census that was taken? Are we looking into, leave alone that.
The census is yet to come, by the way.
Census is yet to come. Are we seeing a situation where IBC as currently constituted, are they able to pull through a referendum?
Which is a question we will discuss a little bit later. I see Areba has walked into the studio. He will join us shortly. But if you say these are politicians who are putting Kenyans into the mood, yet they come publicly, be it on the media or elsewhere, saying that they are doing this on behalf and of the interest of Kenyans.
Well, this is a word that has been used probably to find justification on any initiative that is enrolled, because look at
even when some of the amendments seek as though they want to reduce the number of members of parliament.
Even listen, even some of these amendments, if you look to them keenly, they actually violate the spirit of the constitution in effect. And constitution is Kenya. Kenyans, constitution are actually Kenyan voters. And this is why, for me, when we are going to delve into proposals, you would actually see the diversionary tactics that are made, you know, be it punguza mizigo, punda mechoka, be it, you know, the clergy's proposals. So you'll actually realize that until Kenyans subject themselves into serious interrogation of this initiative, there is nothing purely for Kenyans to benefit. It is meant to score, you know, political issues and, you know, catapult some sections of politicians to a higher level. There's nothing for Kenyans.
And what does interrogation in your own terms mean?
It means Kenyans for the first time reading through documents and properly engaging into civic education and public participation and giving their input and expecting a feedback from their input for them to state clearly their position, why and when they are participating in this initiative. This, for me, is a clear indication that Article 10 that envisaged, you know, one of our values in this constitution is public participation. And if Kenyans, you know, absolutely negate themselves from public participation, it becomes detrimental, because the aftermath of what we are going to have will not reflect on the ideas of Kenyans.
And of all the 4 proposals, 2 have been somewhat seemingly the headlines. BBI, which is rumored, there's no factual information to that, that is calling for a referendum, plus the punguza mzigo. If we are to selectively reduce to these 2, we'll talk of the other 2 a little bit later. Do you read politics into them?
There's so much. In fact, it's more political, because, like I said, BBI is the aftermath of the truce. The third handshake that we always have in this country. You know, we had probably the first handshake after, you know, after Kenyans got independence. The second one, again, at the same floor of a Harambee House in 2008. Between Raila Odinga and Mwai Kibaki. And this is the third one that we are having in the 9th month, again at the floor of Harambee House. But then, remember, the BBI is a child of truce, a gentleman's agreement. And that is a decision that goes up, you know, from bottom down. But then Punguza Mizigo is saying that they are coming from, you know, down to up. So I think these 2 initiatives, first of all, it's coming at a time when there's talk for succession politics. And what is the arithmetic of having an expanded executive to accommodate, you know, political losers in an election and avoid elections conflict aftermath? And we look at also Punguza Mizigo on the other side. They're also saying that, you know, when we look at matters of inclusion and all these things, there's a need for us to reduce the number of seats. All of these proposals, and people are even purporting, you know, that Ekuru Court is receiving, you know, support from some sections of politicians who do not really want to come out and say, I am behind Punguza Mizigo and all these things.
But those are just allegations.
Those are just allegations that are outside there. But all these initiatives are geared towards 2022. Which ones would gain traction and gain a number of following Kenyans voters?
And again, for someone like me, who probably is naive in politics, What is the correlation between a referendum that is to come and 2022 politics?
Well, a referendum really, for example, if we, the BBI pre-subjected proposal, talking about expanding the executive, and going through a parliamentary system, that means that those, whoever clinch or whoever goes into power as the executive prime minister, must have be elected from the House, and that means that you must have majority within the National Assembly. What does that require? It requires that wherever campaign comes, make sure you get as a many number of MPs from all these from electorates. And secondly, this also spells the fact that it's a politics of blocking people out. And you hear the sections of Tanga saying, you see, this is something that is designed so that the president's pre-subjected.
Daniel, let me rephrase my question. I want to understand what the correlation between changing the constitution and politics of 2022 is.
That is what I'm saying. That immediately you are making proposals, and these proposals to be subjected, and Kenyans accept this proposal from any initiative. The acceptance and the promulgation of this proposal definitely means you're creating political positions for 2022. That's what I'm saying. In all measures, look at the proposals that are coming. There's nothing geared towards them by just creating a position, so that people strategically, if they're accepted and Kenyans vote them in, it means that they are safe when it comes to 2022. That is the correlation that is there. There's no more, there is no less about it.
And is that correlation above the interest of Kenyans?
Well, for now, it depends. That's why I'm saying you're really pushing me hard to declare whether I am.
You have a right not to declare.
But that's what I'm saying. As a Kenyan, I would
not. We are open. You can declare.
Yes, I am saying that I am yet to look into which out of these two initiatives that you said, which ones speaks to the interest of Kenyans like me. That I would declare now it is worth. This cause is worth accepting and asking Kenyans to back. But for now, I think for me as a Kenyan, it's important for me to read through and understand if my interest is well taken care of. But as we speak, I think all these divides, for me, I strongly believe that it's still political. There is nothing really for the interest of Kenya.
And Daniel, as someone who analyzes politics, who often looks at the trend, are Kenyans judging from the audience who are Kenyans ready for a referendum?
Yeah, I think there's a poll that was taken by Ipsos. I think you can remember. If Kenyans are really ready for any initiative called a referendum, and you see, most of the sections of the country are actually 50% agreement that you see there's a need to change the constitution. The question is what is the question? What are we changing? So I think this is what Kenyans are waiting. The acceptance that indeed after 10 years constitutionally we should be relooking into our constitution to amend. The question is, what are we amending? What is the question that we is put for a referendum?
Hold on that thought. We will discuss what the questions are, the proposals, plus the legalities of some. Mareba will be joining us after this break. It's time for us to take a short break here on New Week. We still have this discussion after this break. Remember, you can call in on the number that is on your screen. Tweet us at TV47. The hashtag to use is at TV47 New Week. We'll be back after this break.
Today I've invited my friends to come for housewarming.
Wow. Hey. Umepotea. Long time.
Nani unasomea hivyo sasa nini? Unamchangia?
Somei na kwambia ile ukweli hiyo unafanya hapo si kwa.
Pesa ni yenu.
Mbona amefanya maendeleo, ametualika kwa nyumba yake, inakuuma.
I'm so disappointed in my friends. Wananiita kanono kila saa. Na mimi sitaki hiyo maneno. Hawajakuwa wakijua kwa nini weight yangu imekuwa iki-increase.
If you don't give me full information, how do you expect me to know?
Twende sasa.
Nipe countdown.
2 1.
Nakuletea matangazo moja kwa moja kutoka kongamano la 6 la ugatuzi hapa Kirinyaga County.
Hapa ni mjini Meru.
Tupo katika eneo la Waitavia County ya Kiambu.
Hivi leo tuko Nairobi Cinema.
Hapa ni Kina, ukipenda Kinango.
Usiwache hiyo timu ipotee.
Kama huyu amekataa, tafuta mwingine na maisha isonge mbele.
Mabadiliko haya yangali yanazua msuke baina ya washikadau.
Baadhi ya changamoto hizo zilikuwa ni kama vile ukosefu wa maarifa.
Wameweza kupeperusha bendera ya Kenya.
Tutaingia kwenye mapumziko kidogo.
Safi! Na hii mpenzi mtazamaji, ndio
TV47
Macho na sauti yetu.
wiki hii kwenye TV47 mtaani.
Jambo hilo ya kuruka ball, the main reason inakuwaga naogopa responsibility.
Ninaitwa Kaspa Sululu Wafula kutoka Western.
Ngoja Kaspa
Sululu Wafula. Muluya kutoka Western.
Naweza katia ule ana makeup. Yeah.
Na nani lipua kitu.
Hiyo ni version, yeah. Hiyo ni talent.
Ungana nami Tony Mwirigi hapa TV47 Macho na sauti yetu.
Visa vingi vya ukosefu wa kazi vimewalazimu watu wengi kujitosa katika hustle mbalimbali. Hapa katika Hustle Mashinani tunatambua bidii yako, ubunifu wako na kuikubali kazi yako.
Nafanya hustle ya kuuza chapati na maybe weekends wana hustle na kushuka watu nywele.
Hudi ni neighbor wangu. Hata hiyo kazi anafanya inamsaidia kulipa nyumba.
Ungana nami Magdalene Wanjiko kila siku ya Jumamosi saa 2:30 hapa TV47 Macho na sauti yetu.
Uhuru, sheria na haki ni vipengee muhimu katika maisha ya kila siku.
Na iwapo serikali itafanikiwa katika makuzi ya jamii iliyo na mwelekeo, basi sharti sheria hizo zifuatwe.
Na kwa sababu sheria ni msumeno kukata mbele na nyuma, ni vyema kufahamu tungo hizi.
Siku zote jambo usilolijua ni kama usiku wa giza.
Ungana nami Clifford Ndubi.
Nami Andrine Kilemi.
Kila siku ya Jumatatu saa 1 jioni tukidonoa na kuchanganua sheria hizi
zinazotudhibiti.
Wiki hii katika kipindi cha Twende Shambani, twawaletea salamu kutoka kaunti ya Laikipia. Tunda la apple katika shamba hili ni utafiti na ubunifu wa mkulima wa mbogo.
Ni wakaniambia hii kwa ajili ni wewe ulifanya utafiti. Hii tunda yako tutaita Wambogo ipo. Ndio.
Hili ni shamba la tunda la Wambogo apple. Jumanne hii tutajifunza uzalishaji wa tunda hili la kipekee.
Welcome back to New Week, and in case you are just joining us now, remember we are discussing the quest of a referendum. The question we are asking you as the viewer is the call to have the constitutional relooked at, justified. Remember, you can share with us your thoughts. Tweet us at TV47KE. The hashtag to use is TV47 New Week. My guests now, Areba Omweyo joins us on set, a lawyer by profession, an analyst as well as Daniel Orogo, who is an analyst. Gentlemen, many thanks for making time for us.
This gentleman looks so excited. I wonder why he's so excited.
I won't start by asking him to declare what his stand is, but Areba, I posed the very opening question to Daniel that I want to pose to you as well. We had the last referendum in 2005.
Yes.
We are more than a decade, and more than a decade since we promulgated a new constitution. Is it time to relook at that constitution?
By the fact that the constitution provides for ways in which to amend it, then there is the sense that at one point in time, considering that times keep on changing, you know, the law has to adapt to changing times. Then by the fact that the constitution itself provides for ways in which to amend it, then any time is a good time to amend it. Mm-hmm. The problem now comes in that every time as a country, whenever we want to have an honest conversation about anything, even if we are to have an honest conversation about the sun, mm-hmm. we will find a way of introducing politics. Mm-hmm. That is why we lose it. Mm-hmm. And my point has always been that probably the referendum and the constitutional change should not be left and be relegated to the political class alone. Because anytime the political class want to have this conversation, at the back of their mind, they want to have this conversation with the question that what is in there for us. And then at the end of the day, you get that Wanjiku gets not to be the biggest winner, mm-hmm. but the political class. So yes, we need to change the constitution, but then can we relegate this away from the politics and the political class?
Fair enough, and we will discuss the separation, which we talked a little bit earlier, of the connotation between the two. If the constitution is a product of a craftsman, yes. and that craftsman is a learned friend like you, nearly then a decade since it was promulgated, and we are calling for a change, does that also question the foresightness of the craftsman who drafted the constitution?
No. Let me give you an example, Abu Bakar. 15 years ago, we were not having a conversation about money transfer. Mm-hmm. Were we? No, we were not. Mm-hmm. Thus, we did not have regulations about money transfer. Mm-hmm. 15 years ago, we were not having a conversation about artificial intelligence. Mm-hmm. My point is that as the days move, we get to evolve and new issues come up. Then you cannot have a foresight of everything. You cannot have a foresight of everything.
Fair enough, we are human when we are limited.
Yes,
but you can have a foresight on the number of people representing a certain county.
Abu Bakar,
yes.
Let me make my point.
Okay.
What I'm trying to say is that even the basic laws, the basic acts of parliament, time from time, they are amended. Because whatever is the reality today might not be the reality tomorrow. I gave you a very good example. I don't want to mention names. The issue of mobile money transfer. Mm-hmm. This is a very big boom right now, mm-hmm. in that even people nowadays don't walk into banking halls. Was this something that we could think about 15 years ago? Mm-hmm. Certainly not. So every day as times change and as realities change, we need to adapt, and we need to have laws that adapt to new changes.
And we have constants such as being overrepresented, in case we are cutting down the numbers now.
My point was, Abubakar, is that yes, we need to change the laws, mm-hmm. but then can we have a people-driven way of amending these laws? Because mm-hmm. I said that any moment when the political class, quote unquote, hijack this process, the end conversation is that what is in there for us as the political class, rather than what is there for the people. My good friend here, the aspiring member of parliament for Kibra, will tell you that if he looks at the BBI and if he looks at Punguza Gunia or Punguza whatever, what he'll be looking at, Mizigo. What he'll be looking at is, as an aspiring member of parliament, how am I get to gain? But if a Kenyan like you, Abubakar, was to lead this process, what you'll be thinking about is the Wanjiku. So the political class normally change these laws to effect what they want. And that is where the problem starts.
Daniel?
Well, I think it's the same ideology that I came up with before he could join us. And I thank Areba for echoing exactly what I said. While there is an amendment provision, it means for the interest of Kenyans, it could be amended. But what I agree is not any time.
Yes.
I think it's something that is procedural.
And you're putting an exclusivity on the interest of Kenyans.
On the interest of Kenyans. And that's why I said I think today we're in agreement with the Rebo on this table, that this should be people-driven. It should factor in the fact that the most important thing about constitution change is people's participation. That is envisioned in Article 10. But then, my only interest is how then would we capture keenly what really Kenyans want to be advanced? What is their take? Because as we talk, there is a risk of the discussion right now being hijacked, and by, like we've said, it goes to political. It has taken a political note to preempt even the discussion of what BBI is coming up with. And if this is true, then could we have a process where we veto and try to interrogate how many Kenyans' voices did really gain traction for us to come up with such a recommendation?
Fair enough.
This is what we currently, this is why we are lacking, and this is why people are in court, this is why people are casting aspersion about Punguza Mizigo, Ongeza Mizigo. I don't know which one now it is right now.
Fair enough. If both of you agree that seemingly there is a political hand hijacking this, who else should drive this then?
The reason why we're saying there's a political hand is that the moment Ekuru Aukot, my senior, there was an announcement that then he had attained the first threshold of starting a constitutional amendment, we saw so many people throwing stones and saying, who is Ekuru Aukot? Who is he? Then somebody else came and said, the only constitutional amendments we will recognize is the one driven by BBI. I mean, I laughed at that statement and said, what's wrong with some of these people? Because at the end of the day, what Kenyans want is a cake. They don't care who's baking the cake.
And is there more emphasis on who is baking the cake?
That is now where we are losing it. We are emphasizing on what's your second name. Which party do you come from? Who did you shake hands with? Who are you talking to? So the moment then, if Daniel Orogo here was to come with a question and collect signatures, the first question we will start asking, who is he? We are not looking at the objectives, and that is why I'm saying we're overemphasizing on the baker of the cake and the oven that was used and everything. But for Kenyans at the end of the day, what we want is a cake.
I think that causes a very chilling spine on my when Areba is saying, why don't you care who is baking it? Because at the end of the day, we really must agree that some people have a history of constitutional change, and to some extent I agree, because people like Dr. Ekuru Aukot, with most respect, he sat at the experts committee on this constitution, and I agree that whatever proposals he comes up with, Kenyans really needs to listen, really needs to understand, because he knows why he's making these proposals. But my issue about the BBI, like I have a lot of issues about some of these initiatives that are coming, and I wish we would have time to interrogate one by the other.
And we have time to interrogate. Let me rephrase my question before it diverts. My question is and was, if the politicians are the ones hijacking, as you say, who else should give an alternative?
Well, there is a space right now for civil society to come up and really educate Kenyans. There's a space for media to open up, this Pandora's box for Kenyans to begin to uncover what is really going on. Because if politicians have gone up to front initiatives that are not people-driven, but then I think the work of civil society is to occupy that gap and begin to question, begin to educate Kenyans, begin to direct Kenyans, you know, objectively, where they would have this debate and this discussion, and the aftermath of what they are considering that politicians are putting in the table. So I think in the absence of sober politicians, in the absence of objectivity, here lies an independent and strong media that should be educating Kenyans and civil society as well.
Areba, that anyone can present a proposal?
Yes, and that is why the Constitution provides for the option of popular initiative. Probably for the viewers who are watching, they might be thinking that probably when I say we don't care about the baker, we're just going to pick somebody from the street to come and bake. No, 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 no. We have a legal threshold of ensuring that the cake which is being baked then is of a good standard. And that is why we talk about the number of signatures that are supposed to be collected and the second tier of having a number of county assemblies to pass it through. The reason why we lose it, Abakar, is because we have a lot of sycophancy in the country. Ekuru Okot, what people think, or rather what people say in the streets, is that he does not have a following, in quotes. There are people who do not listen to him. When he comes on the table, who does he come with? And so, with that, with casting aspersion on the person of Ekuru Okot and his third way alliance, we already do not look at the issue that is presenting. How I wish, as even Daniel put it, we could sit down and analyze the issues independently. Once we analyze the issues independently, and we think that there is a point we can pick from his issues, let's pick the point. If there is no point, then we say, after analyzing these issues, we think there is no point. But when we quickly run and say, hiyo sisi hapana tambua, the only kitu tunatambua ni yenye inaletwa nawa. I mean, what makes them more Kenyanese than other people? You know, it pains me to see that we are over-glorifying some people and saying, if it's not by us, then there is nothing. And that is where the problem is.
Of course, everyone has a right to pick whichever side they want.
Yes.
And we'll leave them to pick whichever side they want. Of the latest people who presented their proposal to the BBI, of which we'll talk about a little bit later, were women leaders, a section of women leaders under the team Embrace. In the 27-page memorandum, they talked of a raft of issues, some that I want us to discuss. They want a 50-50% representation in the executive position. Is that too ambitious?
Too ambitious. That's too ambitious. Well, how I wish that we would you know, discuss this, you know, the coming of these two initiatives before we really get to who is presenting, because then we are legitimizing what ought, you know, to be put into question. Because for me, as a Kenyan, I think we would do Kenya justice to discuss, as we stand right now, if these two initiatives are the ones that you know, really have the legit to represent Kenyans in their initiatives. But I know you want to stop me, but being independent at this media is for us as Kenyan citizens and people who sit here, I have a question about the coming in of BBI and coming in of Punguza Mizigo. And my concern reflects the concern of so many Kenyans. Because for me, I really want these two initiatives, first of all, BBI, to publicize what was agreed in the handshake for Kenyans to know that we have the legitimacy, we have the autonomy to listen to Kenyans and propose. At the same time, even as much as Areba do not want us to know who is baking the cake, I still ask the Punguza Mizigo, because on all these initiatives of going round, I still have a doubt about the collation of signatures. I still have, listen, I still have,
and you have
how did you arrive in, before I even ask why would I present my issues to these two initiatives?
Fair enough, and you have very good questions, questions that at times can only be answered by those who are in the political bedroom, if at all there was that. My question here was, is the 50-50 gender request a fair deal?
I think it's too ideal, because one of the issues that we are struggling with, even with the proposals, how would we meet the gender parity or the gender balance? And I think it has flopped in the National Assembly now twice, I think. And there are proposals. That is why it was recommended for, you know, for us to have a progressive initiative of how to meet gender balance. I really contest in a manner that, you know, pushing into the throat these kind of amendments without the practical bit of it. How then would we arrive into this 50-50? initiatives that are they're just popular pronouncement and wishful thinking without really putting into the steps at which that is done.
I have a rebuttal, first of all, to my good friend Daniel here. He's talking about, he has doubt about the collection of signatures. Are you IBC?
Listen.
Is IBC?
Listen.
The point I'm making is that this is a legal process. And if you indeed have any doubt about the legal process, there are recourses which you can follow. You cannot just come on national television and say, I doubt the signatures, and you are not among the collection. Back to your question.
I really want and before you answer,
I really want to
fair enough. Yeah. And before he answers my question, I have a journalistic responsibility to inform IEBC a month ago verified.
Yes.
Listen, I'm not picking side, but just on a journalistic.
But let me tell you also, what is this? The body that is accredited with observation, ELOG, which was part of the verification that was invited to verify signatures, had within the public made a press statement in the public, which we can look for here, and say that they are having issues in a manner that signatures were verified. In the fact, if IBC do not have a bank or a database where these signatures were made, it means Daniel Orogo as coming from Alegu Songa, for example, and my constituents, people in Kibra, who appended their signatures for Punguza Mizigo, did not have a time to verify that I did not. Indeed, this is my signature, whether I drew a pot, whether I drew
the custodian...
This is what the custodian...
The custodian says they have verified. You don't believe them?
I don't believe in them. This is why there's a court in case of which we will not discuss, the merits and demerits of that court. And looking into this was the issues that ELOG raised, that somebody has run within to court, including signatures.
This is the point I was raising earlier on. Daniel agrees with you on one hand, then just jumps on the other side and starts his political tendencies. We said very well on this show that probably what we need to look at is we need to look at the cake at the end of the day. You are already casting aspersions on the process. If the body that is mandated by the Constitution has come out and said, hey, we verified these signatures, remember that this is not the first time that IBC is having such an issue. The first time when Okolewa or Okoa something presented signatures, they came out and said, these signatures do not reach the constitutional threshold, and we had to do away with this. Why are we quick to cast these aspersions? Probably it's time, Daniel, that we need to invest and we need to trust on our systems. For me, I believe that IBC will not be that naive with what is provided under the law and the kind of budget that it gets from the exchequer to just come out and say, hey, I think we have verified without doing anything. I think Daniel is also slumping back to what we were saying earlier that who is a Kuro court? That is what Daniel is saying. That is what he said.
Gentlemen, we can disagree whether we want to believe or not, but the custodian has said
so.
That has been challenged in the judiciary. Listen, there is a contestant about the issue of signature. Can we, I have in no doubt, doubting the custodian of the voter register or anything, that is IBC. But what I am saying is a Kenyan who is intelligent enough and who's read into the malice that was involved in the collection of signatures has gone ahead and questioned the judiciary.
Fair enough.
This guy has a case.
Fair enough. Yes, you're putting a case. There should be a defense to it. They're in a court with a case. We'll see the outcome of the court. I don't have to delve. Fair enough. I don't want us to delve. I don't want us to delve deeper into that. Let me ask you rather this question. Yes. You are a lawyer by profession.
Qualified one.
Needless to have added that. Some of the proposals by the section of women that we talked about, Team Embrace, is to have a similarity to Article 166C of the Constitution, where the Chief Justice and Deputy Chief Justice are of the opposite agenda. Will such an executive work in our political idiom?
I think the Embrace Women is being too futuristic and too, they're just in this ideal world which might not be true at the moment. when first of all you suggest that we have a 50-50 representation, I think let's look first of all, where are we right now? You know, you can jump. It's like saying that your son, you want him to score 400 marks when he's scoring 50. Why can't you just request first of all to at least get to 150 before you can say score 400? So the embrace women, I think.
But if he works hard, he can get that 400.
He can get that, but then that is not that is the ideal case. There is ideal and there is reality.
And with this amendment, that is what they want, which is possible.
That is what they want, but are they fighting for it? You see, the conversation that we have been having for a very long time is that let's get to a point in this country where whatever that you are getting is what you have worked hard for. Let's not just sit back and say, because we are having a constitutional amendment, let's amend and have the president as a lady, the deputy president as a lady, the CS as a lady. No. You know, we can go back to the conversation of the ladies that we have nominated so far so good. What's the value that we are getting from them?
Let's flip that question. The men who have been all along, what are they doing?
The men who have been there all along, we have not got the value. But then we are not going to blot the executive and because we want to attain gender parity. Let's get to a point where we are questioning the value that we are getting. The hundreds and thousands of MCAs that we have nominated, what the value are we getting from them? And that is where I've been of the opinion that these nominations and these seats which are given because of we want to attain some gender parity, we probably need to look at them. I mean, I hold this view, and so many people hold this view, that the women representatives positions, these are some of the most I can't get a political in moderation seats that we have. Because what are they doing? They have been relegated to making handcarts, wheelbarrows, supplying water tanks, and giving sanitary pads. Are those roles that a man can give? Yes. So let's not look at the constitution and trying to justify the balance in terms of the gender representation. I'm
sure more than the wheelbarrows, they are doing a lot in as far as women issues are concerned.
Exactly? Which kind of legislation have we seen from the women representative that is trying to address women issues?
But at least they are there.
I mean, even that camera is there. So.
Listen, I agree with what Areba, some of the sentiments, but then let me give it a twist that, you see, affirmative action is envisaged in the Constitution, and as part of trying to meet the balance, trying to get the voices of women, it was important for these actions to be considered. The political terrain has not been, fair leveled to women. That is the thinking. That was what ushered in, the need to nominate women and also set aside positions that are definitely for women only. But then, like Areba has said, for me, it is important for probably somebody to come and do a research. Out of the 47 women that have been elected, what have they done so far, for their constituents? Because what I only know they have is affirmative action fund. And I have, in the back of my mind, never really noticed what this affirmative action has done, which is far from what Areba has just said. Is always for buying sanitary towels, is always for, coming up with sports. And what else has affirmative action done in these 47, counties? It is important for us to interrogate that as well.
And what if one is to argue with the notion that the men who have bigger budgets are not performing? You're single-handedly pointing at women who have little budget.
Are we trying to just say now, these two wrongs, let's put these two wrongs?
We're in the process. Would it not be fair enough to point at the two wrongs than point at one?
To try and get it right. What we're trying to say is that the issue of the men representation, this is an issue that we're trying to check on the quality, and every day we are having a conversation on which kind of quality representation and legislation are we getting from the men. So before we can finish that conversation, we are quickly running and trying to slump in and saying, oh, give these people what, give them wheelbarrows. No, let's audit the men and the women as they are right now. Before then we can add these women onto the gravy train.
We're talking of a referendum. Yes. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. Of course, it will be happening, if at all it will, under the guidance of IEBC. As it is constituted right now, do you think IEBC can deliver that?
No. Again, this is where we are coming back in the heated discussion that we just had a while ago. When I said, as currently constituted, IEBC, is not in a position, for example, to hold a referendum for me, because remember, the question about the commissioners. Will we have the commissioners who've resigned? But then also that will depend on the magnitude of what is in store, what is in stake. Remember, the CEO's position as we speak, is still not filled. And all these allegations about the secretariat and about the commissioners, and how then would we usher in the political process that is there to usher in new commissioners. I also, remember, it's the same commission that, was questioned called by that time. This commission is still here. And the issue about IBC and all this have not been. All over from 2008, remember about the Agenda 4. One of the institutions that was noted was IBC. Coming back to, the political negotiation we'd had to take Isaka San out and come Jebukati with the team, we still do not have a very clear agreed process of ushering the trusted commissioners of IBC. And sometimes...
You say agreed process, agreed by?
Well, there are parties, because in one initiative, we've not come to a level where the nation or the parties that are concerned or the stakeholders will purely agree these are commissioners that, we really trust to take us forward. So I think this is what even if we do it today, even tomorrow, people, especially the political class, would cast aspersion in the process of getting IBC commissioners. And hence I still question the signatures, even as we speak. For a matter of fairness.
IBC as currently constituted, do you think they can deliver?
I think they can deliver as currently constituted, but they might not be in a position to deliver adequately. As he has put it, the CEO's position is still vacant, and some commissioners, some who resigned and some who, I don't know how they left office, there's still some kind of controversy. And the moment when we start casting aspersions, as Daniel is doing, there are some processes which are very emotive in this country. The moment you start casting aspersion on an election process, be it because a referendum is an election process in itself, the moment then you start casting that aspersions, at the end of the day, you start now whipping emotions. So I feel that before we get to that position, if indeed we are going to have a referendum, we need to ensure that IBC is fully constituted so that there is no excuse that comes. Because I believe that each and every person who's lacking from that team, there is a specific role which he is doing. And if then that specific role is not coordinated well, at the end of the day, the whole team cannot be able to perform. It's just like a football team. The football team can play without a goalkeeper, but it cannot be able to play well. The football team can play with a dog as number 6, trying to just balance and have 11 members, but then it will not be able to perform well. So let's have the full team fully constituted so that at the end of the day, there is no casting aspersions, there is no any doubt that it indeed performed its mandate as it's supposed to be.
And you see the time limit, also considering the time that we have as a country. And remember, not only the issue of referendum, we also have an issue of the limitation of boundaries. That is also ahead of us. So my question is that as we drum up this support for 2022, drumming support for referendum question on these national census is here with us, what time limit do we have to, to talk about how do we replace the commissioners? How would these commissioners deliver on this referendum? How would these commissioners be trusted with the process of overseeing the boundaries demarcation? I think the question is, when are we having a process, a clear steer process for us to have the new commission?
Gentlemen, we are 2 years and a week since the last election happened.
Yes.
2 years and a week. We still have 2 years plus. Is all this coming too early, too soon?
We live in a country where if you win elections, in your victory speech, what to tell the people is, remember that I'm in the race after 5 years.
Irrespective of who wins.
Irrespective of who wins. In that, the common joke is that we are a country, if we do not have any political activity, we might go into a coma. So every time there is something that is ongoing. Remember that I know of places where people started campaign just after the elections. Somebody has not done anything for the people who have elected him, but he's already having conversations on how he's going to go for another seat or how he's going to downgrade or upgrade. I know of a women representative who's my friend, and after she got elected, she called me and said, I need a strategy on how to be a senator next. And I'm looking at her like, are you mad? I mean, you just got elected. You have not done anything. You are barely a year in office, and you're thinking of a strategy team for the next. So my point is that we have put a lot of premium in our elected leaders. We have put a lot of premium in elections. We are having a conversation already about 2022.
And when you say we, just for purpose of clarity, you mean Kenyans?
We Kenyans. Because you remember Murkomen.
And not necessarily the political class.
This is what Murkomen said in one political rally, that we want them not to talk the politics, but Kenyans want to hear politics. In that if you don't talk politics for 2 weekends, then the Kenyans will be like, huyu jamani kama ameisha. So, you know, it's garbage in, garbage out. The leaders, if they are garbage, they are representative of we Kenyans as garbage. What will happen if a leader will stand in the middle of the CBD and start telling us trash, and we tell him, no, we don't want to hear that. But the moment we start cheering them on, and they get the energy and the potential to keep moving. So we are the ones who encourage them, and they have perfected the art.
Daniel, is all this coming too early, too soon?
Too early, too soon, of course. And I think in the burden of Kenyans,
service delivery.
When we are forgetting to deliver services and engage into political bickering for the rest of the remaining period, my question is that, are we staring at a situation of risking to forget about the Big Four agenda, you know, the president's delivery agenda? So for me, I think it is important for politics is healthy. Competitive politics is good for Kenyans. And as we even envision that in 2030, one of the political pillars is to have an issue-based politics. There is much of devoid of, ethnicized and all this, tribal. But then it's also important for us to stay clear that there is a need, there is a leeway for us to give our leaders a time to deliver the services to the people. This is not real to Kenyans. And again, like Areba said, the way I don't know what whoever bewitched Kenyans, some probably died and should be told to raise it. Because Kenyans are constantly like, we have to be political. If politics is not within our blood here, then, Kenyans are just...
You're talking of who bewitched Kenyans. Yeah. One would argue that this is because of the vibrancy of our democracy.
No. We can't be a country. I mean, we have seen how the elections in the UK take place. Elections even in Rwanda, even in the US. I mean, there is a political period. The pre-election, election, and a small post-election. For us, we are always in the political cycle. When, as we Kenyans, have we ever not talked politics? When? Give me a moment. Give me a time, Abubakar.
When I'm off this show, I don't talk politics. And let me ask you, what kind of a danger then does that pose if every time we are talking of politics, if nearly everything is politicized?
What then we begin to teach our youth that, you see, the only leaders that we have that are glorified are politicians.
Yes.
And the danger is that we forget that these are people that are sent there to represent the interest of us. And it is also important that we are slowly sliding into a state where everything would be political. Nobody, no voters would ever, indulge. And last time I was really crucified here for saying that, you see, our politics have become so expensive that politicians invest in it and later, begin to look public resources. You guys were so on my neck. But then this is where we are.
We were just questioning the line of thought.
And you see, the line of thought is not my own line of thought, but the thinking of majority of Kenyans.
Are you speaking on behalf of majority of Kenyans?
I am speaking on behalf of majority of Kenyans. That is why the question that you've asked me, what is the danger? The danger is exactly that each and every time Kenyans would really say that it is us against them. In that, for us, we are here waiting for, a political period, or create an opportunity for politics to take place. Because then we don't see any service delivery. What we are seeing is political and handouts and all this. That is the danger that we are in when we begin to politically every time.
Areba, you agree with him?
I agree with that in that at the end of the day, when you ask somebody, you go to a school and ask a student, what do you want to become after school? He tells you, I want to be an MCA.
Yeah.
In that now, even in the villages that where we come from, the political class is more important than anything. When the politicians will walk into church, you are given the front seats. It doesn't matter whether you profess that faith or when you don't. When you go to a funeral, they will ask you, what time do you want to speak? We have overglorified that. And in that, we don't look that there is a private sector and other things that people can do. At the end of the day, we put a lot of clout and a lot of premium on politics. So the continuous politicking, we do not have that time of now trying to see what can we do for the people. Because every day as a politician, when I'm meeting my people, all we talk is politics. Who is forming an alliance with who is doing what with who. So we will not have time to talk about the roads.
If the people are giving you, providing you with an audience, should they as well?
It's because we have corrupted their mind to think that there is nothing better we can offer to them than politicking every day.
Fair enough. Let's get back to the question of a referendum. We are analyzing prospects, whether it can, whether it will, whether it may not be. Should it pass that we have a referendum? It's not a cheap exercise. In a country where we have slightly passed over the debt ceiling, where will all this money to hold a referendum come from?
Well, I remember when I called it a referendum festival, and you see, it's always a rehearsal, it's always a performance. You know, that is well choreographed, and where people are putting on political uniforms, and you see at the end of the day there's rewardees and those who are losing. So for me, it is important for I said the Kenyan question, and African answer is not on constant, push for a referendum. I said there are very important tenets that we should consider. The practice of good leadership with integrity, a fidelity to the rule of law, accountability, and for us as a country to deal with corruption. I think when we practice and obey our laws, we will not really always be running into a constant ditch where we think that if this law doesn't suit us, then it's important for it to be amended. It is important for it to be changed. I am speaking about this taking into consideration the Constitution gives us a time for an amendment of the Constitution. And I think it's constitutional, but the question is how, when is this done?
Areba, I understand we need to take a short break, but before that?
Before that, we will have had better utilization of the funds that we're going to use for a referendum. This is a country, when the political class come together and decide to do something, they will do it. The money will be found. Why did we get money for building bridges initiative? I mean, that was not something in the budget. But since it had the blessings of the political class, we will get the money. But should we? I think we should not have. We should have put it in our budget.
Should we or shouldn't we? And many other questions. We'll discuss that after this break. It's time for us to take a short break here on New Week. We'll be back after this break.
Today I've invited my friends to come for housewarming.
Wow. Hey. Umepotea. Long time.
Nasomea hivyo sasa ni unamchangia.
Somei nakwambia ile ukweli hiyo ile unafanya hapo si poa.
Pesa ni yenu.
Mbona amefanya maendeleo, ametualika kwa nyumba yake, inakuuma.
I'm so disappointed in my friends. Wananiita kanono kila saa na mimi sitaki hiyo maneno. Hawajakuwa wakijua kwa nini weight yangu imekuwa iki-increase.
If you don't give me full information, how do you expect me to know?
Watoto katika ndoa huleta raha, ila kwa familia hii ni karaha. Watoto 8, 3 punguani, 3 hawana hali na 2 ni marehemu.
Yule pia alikuwa kwa kirema. Nikakaa naye, nikasumbuana naye. Alitangu aliposaliwa akakaa duniani miaka 16 akaaga.
Kilio kila kukicha.
Mimi nimepitia dhiki kubwa sana. Kwani hata huko nilikoolewa Sikuwa nakubalika. Kungekuwa na sherehe yoyote, nilikuwa nalazimika kufungia watoto kwenye nyumba ili wasionekane. Na iwapo wangeonekana, nilikuwa natusiwa sawasawa.
Familia ikawatema.
Kilio kwako ndio nitoke kwetu nyumbani. Kama ningekubali kufukuza bibi na watoto, ningekuwa mmoja wa jamii.
Maisha ilikuwa mabaya. Juu mama alifukuzwa huko juu ya kuzaa watoto viwete.
Hii ni dunia ya pili, juzuu ya kizazi cha majonzi. Nami ni Wambogo Yusuf.
Dunia ni duara na yote yanayofungana kufunguka. Kila kukicha mapya yanasawazisha jana na ya leo.
Bila shaka hatuwezi kubadili muundo wa maisha yako, lakini hakikisho letu kwako ni kwamba tutahakikisha asubuhi yako inaanza katika mpigo uliobomba zaidi.
Inakuwaje Kenya tufunge Tanzania baada ya mechi kuimiliki?
Tunarauka nawe kwa uchambuzi wa kina wa taarifa mbalimbali.
Tutaangazia kaunti mbalimbali moja baada ya nyingine.
Mazungumzo na majadiliano yanayokujenga wewe nafsi yako.
Hatutasahau burudani Jumatatu hadi Ijumaa.
Afya nzuri ni mojawapo ya misingi maalum katika jamii. Na husaidia katika ukuzi wake. Na katika dunia hii yenye magonjwa mbalimbali, hapa TV47 tumejitolea kukujuza, kukuelimisha na kukuwezesha. Jiunge nami, tusafiri pamoja.
Elimu bila shaka ni nguzo maalum katika makuzi ya jamii. Hapa tunaangazia mtaala wa masomo, mitindo tofauti ya masomo pamoja na changamoto zinazoikumba sekta hii. Elimu, mafunzo, mwongozo, maendeleo, yote haya katika kipindi hiki cha elimu na walimu.
All right, welcome back to New Week. And in case you're just joining us now, remember the topic we are discussing is the quest for a referendum. The question we are asking you as the viewer is whether it is justified or not. Share with us your thoughts. Remember to use the hashtag TV47 New Week and tweet us at TV47KE at Abubakar Abdullahi, Abu with H. Gentlemen, you can give your Twitter handles. I'm not mean in allowing you guys to give your Twitter handles.
At Daniel Orogo. At Daniel Orogo.
Fair enough.
At Omoyoski without a Y.
Let's get back to the question of referendum. I asked Daniel, who is a frequent commentator on matters politics, to declare his stand. He refused. I'm asking you, Areba, now. I hope you won't refuse. Which of the four, which of the two that have been in the headlines sounds seductive to you?
Which one of the two sounds seductive to me? Punguza Mizigo. I think it in a way tries to resonate with the common mananchi. Although the BBI team has not come out expressly to say that there will be a referendum, but we have had sentiments from the handlers of Raila Odinga, and even from Raila Odinga himself, saying that the only team that we trust with a referendum is the Building Bridges Initiative. Then that is where my concern comes, in that you are quick to trust your own team with whatever proposal is going to come out with. It doesn't matter what the interest of Wanjiku is, but you are quickly trashing the other team. So I find that kind of self-enriching and that self-importance behavior not to really work with me. The BBI might come with some good proposals, but the bulk of it will be driven by selfish political interest, and that is why I'm having a problem with the same. If indeed Raila was to be the fighter of democracy and the fighter of human rights, as he claims he is, then he should come out and say, let's assess what the Punguza Mizigo has come up with. Let's look at what we can get positive from that. Whatever we get from there, let's see how we can incorporate it in the Building Bridges Initiative proposal. Then rather standing on the podium and saying, we don't trust them, then who trusts you?
Let me read what Nelson Vujeri says on Twitter. He says, and I quote, Kenyans should only support a referendum drive that promises to improve their lot. I suppose it was life. If the constitution is changed with a few individuals in mind, this will not stop another group from seeking to change the document tomorrow. Seemingly a question I was to ask. If then we can be in a referendum mood, that whatever doesn't necessarily suit me can be changed. Are we dancing to the tune? The political class dancing to the tune of the lyrics that Nelson Vujeri has just mentioned about?
Yeah, I think he's captured it well, that we are opening a Pandora's box where, you know, if somebody is unhappy with a section or amendment, he would actually run to court. He would actually begin a process of collecting signatures and, trying to come up with an initiative, a popular initiative. But then I'm really, this is why I said I would not want until now, like the comment that guy has taken. He's also not taken a position. He said that if everybody goes the way these two initiatives are going, it means that they need to be a proper way to do this. The reason as to why I really I'm not really open to these two referendums is the fact that, all of them are personal, all of them are politicized. I have seen nothing that really capture the interest and attention of Kenyans. And when I say the reason.
You say both of them are politicized?
Both of them are politicized. And it's, well, a referendum question definitely
can you separate politics from a referendum?
Over-politicized. Let me use that word, because then referendum, all this referendum and constitutional change is a political process. But then, listen, I have serious issues with Punguza Mizigo as well, because it sounds ambitious. It sounds, purporting to, Punguza Mizigo, while in effect is a recipe to chaos in this country. I think the initiatives are popular and they're not realistic as they sound. And if you, for example, propose that you would want to make you know, our you know, our 47 counties as a unit, you know, where each woman representative and a man would be elected to go to both, you know, Senate and all. I think we would, for me, I am really heating up. I am really, you know, I really want us to discuss this content.
And you are skeptical of both?
I have,
which
also
you have
the
which you have a
composition
right.
of BBI itself, I said it's a process of two people in this country. It has never been a people-driven initiative.
Yet we had submissions from the civil society, from women leaders, from all leaders.
If we had submissions, that's why I said, look at the issues that have been outlined by Punguza Mizigo. Inclusivity, it's the same in BBI. Matters of, you see, trying to avoid an election, chaos after election, where BBI is proposing for us to deal with political conflicts. The same way Punguza Mizigo is coming and saying us the term limit for a president needs to be 7 years. Very, very unpractical. For me, I wish that there would be a Kenyan-driven quest for change of constitution.
And if both are calling for inclusivity, and you agree that there is a sense of having more political inclusivity in the political space, what is wrong with that?
Well, I agree. There is need for inclusivity, but the proposals to inclusivity. Look about the issues of, I think the inclusiveness to Punguza Mizigo is more about meeting the gender balance, if you are very keen on it. And I say that is really not practical.
It has
violates
just to be fair, as someone who has read the proposals, it has more than women issues. It does reducing the numbers of representation.
But in its face, face value, I think.
Fair enough. Areba?
The reason why I am tilted towards Punguza Mzigo initiative is that it has gone through a constitutional expose. And even the point we are in on time right now, we are trying to look like we are following the law through that process. As Daniel has said here, is that, I mean, the BBI initiative was born because of two people shaking hands. And we didn't really seem to have the same being anchored in law. So then at the end of the day, as much as we have had the team wasting taxpayers' money going around 47 counties or so, at what point in time then did the real Wanjiku present their issues? We already have concerns from Uasin Gishu County that there were no collection of views in Uasin Gishu County. And that is the governor speaking. Whether he's playing politics or not, that is a topic for another day. Punguza Mzigo in itself, we are having people who signed from different regions. And it is going to be presented before the county assemblies. This is going to try and cure the issue of the people driven, in that the county assemblies, they represent the people. But when we want to stand on the top of the tallest buildings in town and cheer out a process by two individuals and say that it's inclusive, that is where we lose it. As much as it's a political process, can we try and put some politics aside and try to run it as a constitutional process? Although, again, you will tell me that constitutional process is a political process. Yes, but the over-politicization, as Daniel said, that is where we lose it. And my point still, Bakar, is that when there is something good, when there are two cakes for Wananchi, why should you stand and say, the lady who baked this, we don't know her, so Wananchi should not be subjected to eat this cake? And at the end of the day, Wananchi is hungry. Wananchi needs a cake. And you're saying that the cake that I want Wananchi to eat is the one that I've baked. I'm the only one who can bake the best cake. Who told you?
I think this matter of cakes is bringing the pangs of hunger to us. Moving on, there are those who equally say that if at all we will have this referendum, have it alongside the 2022 general elections, kill two birds with the same stone, if at all.
What would be the cost implications of that for Kenyans?
Would it not be less costly to have?
That's what I'm saying. Any initiative, any proposals, I think, would reduce popularly. That would reduce the cost of trying to have a separate financial allocation for a referendum and a separate one for the general election. And that means that in the ballot we are going to have, I think, 7, right now is 7, if that is, we go by that. But would this nice discussion and objective content and the finesse of this discussion be lost with the election? That is my thinking. I think it should be, for me, it should be a separate process where Kenyans will have enough time. Like I use the word, to interrogate the documents and listen to different presentation and participate fully insofar as different presentations are concerned. Because if we combine the two initiatives, then we are endearing ourselves to a situation where we will not have a referendum will be lost in election process, will be consumed by the process at which people will be campaigning up and down. But then, I will still come back to what I have said, that Punguza Mizigo in its process violated the constitution that Areba is trying to protect. Those processes are not laid down.
Baseless allegations.
I mean, it's really, and if it's really, why would the court in its wisdom find out that indeed this is a matter that requires to be given a hearing?
Baseless allegations.
If we, there's no base. I am saying, if a body like ILO could cast aspersion in the process. I mean, if there is any other politician who would do that, I would say this is just business. But if it's a statutory body, a body that is relying on, that has an expertise,
and that is a case before a court.
Yes,
it's demerits and merits.
We would not want, but I think
that is your opinion. There's
that is
nothing
my
wrong
opinion.
with that.
That is my opinion. A strong opinion.
I want to educate Daniel on some little law, because I think he knows nothing, and the nothing he knows he does not know it well. When you go to court, the court has to listen to you and listen to the other party to determine whether there is a justifiable cause. It's just an allegation that is before court. By the fact that the same is before court does not necessarily mean that I mean, at the end of the day, there will be a fault that will be found. And that is the law. That is the law, Daniel.
We are not discussing anything.
Abubakar, just a minute. That is the law.
What I am saying.
Let him finish.
Listen.
Daniel, hold on. I gave you a minute, let him finish his thought.
Daniel, that is the law which you did not study, which I studied. And when I tell you, you have to listen. It's like an accused person. When somebody is rushed to court, having been accused, that does not mean he's guilty. The same reason that somebody thinks that there was something amiss in this process and rushed to court does not necessarily mean that there was something amiss.
And if a court finds that process faulty, it's back to square one.
So we wait for the court to make its pronouncement. Daniel.
I am also a politician. When I tell you this is a process that was political and mad, the same law that you're discussing, you need to listen to me as well, Areba. You understand? I am saying it is as much as it sounds to be, to have violated, and it did violate a constitution. It is a political manipulation towards a constitution.
However, you're not a court. You
are not the court. You are just a politician.
We'll wait for the ruling. We'll wait for the ruling. New week will not end today. We'll come back here and see if there was an evidence as to that.
But then I want him to tell me, you are a legal expert, and thanks for coming up with that issue. By the process at which signatures were verified and handing over for IBC declaration, was it a process of verification? Did it take place or not?
Daniel, I wouldn't love Areba to respond.
I'm not IBC.
I wouldn't love him to respond to that. That is a case before a court, and it's only fair we leave the merits and demerits to it. We'll wait for the ruling and discuss it on
fair enough.
Gentlemen, as we finalize, there have been a lot of talks as well of this referendum shaping up succession politics.
I had to jump in on the issue of whether we have elections and referendum on the same front.
As you answer that, the talks of this referendum, should it be shaping up succession politics of 2022? Do you read any connotation between the two?
Of course. Before then I answer that, should we have the referendum alongside the 2022 election? That is the most ideal thing to have. But is it possible? My answer is no.
Why is it not possible?
Look at the election process itself. Previously, IBC has been taunted as not having conducted the process well as it's envisioned in the law and in the Constitution and other acts of Parliament. So if we try to put more into IBC and yet it's not able to run an election process for elective seats well, then we will be overburdening it. We might turn out to be more chaotic than we anticipated. My point is that ideally, these processes should be merged to save on the cost and everything.
And Areba, why should it be an ideal when in reality it can?
I mean, whenever we have a conversation, even for me, I have an ideal house that I want to live in. But then, am I living in that house? No. Why? Because there are other factors that are involved. What I'm saying is that if you look at the Kriegler report, you look at the Supreme Court ruling of annulling the presidential elections, the election process in itself, and as the courts have pronounced, it's not an occurrence, it's not an event, it's a process. And IBC, so far so good, has not been able to carry out that process, not event, that process fully as it's envisioned in the law.
And do you think giving it a separate date will enable it to...
Abu Bakr,
I'm just questioning the
I always tell Daniel here to listen. But now it's my point to tell you to listen.
No, you are the one who's not listening. My question is, you're saying let's have them separate. Will placing it on a separate date help?
My idea is that, and my thinking is that IBC can put its house in order so that then it's able, whether separate or whether merged, it can be able to put this, it cannot be able to run these processes as envisioned in the law, not as envisioned in the political class's mind. Your second question, whether the referendum is a run-up to the elections, or rather a succession plan, ordinarily it was not supposed to be. But the current situation of Kenya, it is. Why again? We dream politics, we speak politics, we work up politics. Ordinarily, we were supposed to look at the referendum and the constitutional amendments as to trying to better the life of Wanjiku and Mora and Nyaboke and Orogo here. But then since we have the political mind every time, since what we are looking at is who is going to be the president next, who is going to be the prime minister and who is going to be the MCA, then we twist this process to be a build-up to the elections. We cannot have a moment in Kenya without any electioneering process. We will probably, we will not have the Kenyanese in us.
Fair enough. Daniel, do you read succession politics into the drive-up of a referendum?
Well, I said before, I said it before that definitely that is the pointer. It's a political pointer towards that direction because, you know, if we are to propose, you know, an amendment to this constitution, it definitely alters the previous political arrangement that we had and the political setting within our national assemblies or our political parties. And this means that, especially sometime we may have time to come back and discuss the implications of this constitutional change to our political parties. That would be a very interesting discussion. But then as we speak, the pointer is that there is a tectonic shift within the political cycle to try to avoid, you know, different pledges that they made, you know, to their own people. For example, if we look at NASA or any Jubilee, should there be a change to usher in a parliamentary system? Or for example, that means that there would be, you know, a reconstitution within the agendas and the manifesto of this. And that definitely alters what was in the succession politics. And a possible successor that might come out again after.
Gentlemen, for the last 1.5 hours plus, we have talked about the proposals that have been made. As we finalize, rather, I'd love to challenge you to give us a piece at least of what you will think would be an ideal question for a referendum. Not necessarily a question, but proposals. What would you love all these proposals to entail? In a minute or less.
Well, I think my question that I would really put forward is on the devolved system of government. I still feel that you know, there should be a process where we put a question on whether Kenyans would still be comfortable with the 47 counties, or would Kenyans want an executive with, you know, the former provincial administration.
And as you put that question, the intention behind it is either to increase or to reduce?
I think it's the proposal is they would want a reduction of the 47 counties. Remember the proposal that Raila made at the devolution conference, you'd been in Kakamega.
Yes.
So I think as much as that sounded political, but then it comes to a question where would we, even as we try to deal with the factors of misappropriation of funds within the 47 county government, why would we try to come up with a very more accountable system? Would there be a process where we would even discuss, if that is not possible, would county governments form a regional bloc, for example?
Yes.
And as you finish, how different will that be from the regional tiers?
That is what I'm saying. Would it be important for us to have blocks, like for example the Eastern Bloc,
yes.
the Lake Region Bloc, for us to be more accountable in terms of how would we send the resources? The question about MCAs, a very rogue, we are having rogue MCAs who do not understand. I would want the qualifications of MCA to be uplifted.
Rogue, according to you, as you find
well,
it.
Areba,
we have less than a minute.
I have around 10 proposals. First of all, in the regional blocks, I agree we need to have blocks which are regional. Number two, the issue of graft cases. This is something that was proposed by the Law Society of Kenya, and I feel that we need to have timelines in which graft cases are supposed to commence and to be completed. Reduction of parliament. We need it to shrink a bit. Women representatives, just do away with it. MCAs who are rogue, let's have a qualification in which we put these MCAs. And also, let's have a way of dealing away with the nomination slots. We cannot have a near equal number of elected and nominated. Then last but not least, youth representation. This is something that I'm very key on. In that, at the end of the day, the youth are the largest majority in this country. But then, do we see them in parastatals? Do we see them in any government positions? Do we see them in constitutional commissions? We need Daniel here to be sitting in the IBC. We need him to sit in the Judicial Service Commission. So I have some ambitious way of trying to deal with this challenge, so that then at the end of the day, we can have representatives of youth in every constitutional or public body.
Fair enough. I'll still question why you will deal away with women representatives.
What are they doing?
I mean, they're doing a lot of things for women, but that's why we'll have to hand. Areba Omoyo, Daniel Orogo, gentlemen, many thanks for making it home to be on New Week.
It was a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's edition of New Week. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Up next is Clifford Ndubi with Matukio Nyanjani. Stay tuned.